All right, guys, it's time for us to do the scheduled programming for today, which is a conversation between Hasan and his uncle. It's very interesting to me that he's having this discussion, and you could maybe, if you're the average Hasan lover, you might pop in here. You might be a fan of me as well and Hasan, but it feels like he hasn't really been doing any real conversations for a while. And then he kind of had like a debate with Ethan and got dumpstered twice in a row by him. And after that, I feel like maybe Hasan's trying to get back into some conversational or debate-esque content, because I feel like he needs to do a little more chatting. I don't know. But I remember I saw Destiny talk about it, and I wonder if Hasan is a secret Destiny hate watcher. But it's an interesting timing for it. This is a conversation about trans issues, so let's see. Also, Cenk is a lot shorter than his uncle or his nephew. I didn't notice that. Unless this is a Hasan power play to put him in a shorter chair, which would be smart. Anyway, let's get it going.
Don't pretend that I brought it up. No, you brought it up.
Yelling at him.
And you made it a giant issue, and you're the one hurting the progressive cause and the trans rights cause.
Why are you so extra, brother? All right, you're with your nephew. Chill. Yeah.
We win on every goddamn issue on trans rights. Why are you going and dying on the hill?
It's going to be sports, isn't it?
That no one agrees with you on. You're going to ruin trans rights on other issues.
Okay.
We're going to lose because you're being so extreme.
What the hell is this? Listen, not for nothing. I'm not a huge Hasan fan, but there's nothing. I feel like there's nothing Hasan could have said to warrant this response. Like, I agree, if you're focusing on trans people in sports, it's probably optically not the best one to go with. But outside of that, like, I feel like it's probably not really hurting anything to have that take necessary. I don't know. I feel like you'd have to have a crazy take. But my trans people in sports perspective is not changed, but I've been considering it ever since I watched the Neil deGrasse Tyson conversation with trigonometry, which I don't know if I'm going to post that first or this. But he made an interesting point, and I was like, oh, that's something to think about. And the point basically to me was this. Like, let's say, generally speaking, trans women at 130 pounds perform the same as cis women at like 140 pounds. You know, a conversation about potentially, if there was weight classes in that sport, allowing, 130-pound trans women to compete with 140-pound cis women. It's an interesting thought. I'm not like, to me, when it comes to the trans movement, to get trans people rights, it's more about, hey, let's get them medical, like trans affirming care is number one priority. I feel like sports is not really the most pressing issue right now, right? By any means. It's just like, hey, can we get trans people some rights to get gender affirming care and not be harassed relentlessly? But yeah, I mean, that I've been just kind of sitting and thinking about it. So.
And then every ally you have, you're like, nope, I'm going to be more pure than them, so I'm going to burn their bridge.
Is he talking about Hasan, or is he just making this general statement?
Dad, I don't want any allies. Okay, well then don't have any allies.
Oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind.
This is insane.
All right. Cenk Uygur is here, ladies and gentlemen.
Cenk.
It's a classic uncle-nephew face-off, as I have talked about already. For those of you who don't know, Cenk wrote a book. This is in the face. Cenk wrote a book called Justice is Coming, How Progressives Are Going to Take Over the Country and America is Going to Love It, which is, I mean, I'm a very cynical person. I don't think, I'm a very pessimistic person. I don't think it's happening anytime soon, but maybe you'll make an argument for that. Yeah, we're going to talk about your book, and we're going to talk about another thing that you literally didn't tell me while you were announcing it, which is that you're running for president.
I don't know why people focus on trans issues when there's 100 other issues to be addressed before that. I mean, I understand what you're saying. There are, trans people represent like a very small minority of the country. The problem is that the Republican Party has no other platform but to harass LGBTQ people. There's really no meaningful social or economic reform going on. And there are pathways, like first, like we live in a technology era. You can't just keep cutting taxes. We're going to have to figure out something a little bit more profound than just give me tax cuts. We saw last time with Trump's tax cuts, it stimulated the economy, but it just increased the annual federal deficit by $350 billion a year. It's not the way to go. in my opinion, a really good conservative solution to our current problems would be like a negative income tax or a UBI. This is a conservative solution. Milton Friedman pushed it. It's something that conservatives should start looking into and considering, because I think it's better than like very highly conditional welfare programs. I think it's better than drastically higher minimum wage hikes. I think it's just overall smarter. There's a lot of things that it kind of replaces. I honestly think it's better than necessarily dumping a bunch of money into schools. I'm not saying schools are bad, but what I'm saying is I feel like if you give people money and then they can kind of figure out what their community needs to do with that money, then once their communities are better off financially, they can make the decision to invest more money into their taxes for better schools. I kind of feel, to me, it gives people agency and autonomy over their own decisions and their own money. That's why I'm like a big UBI, and I'm a UBI guy, and I'm not conservative, but I like the idea of it. I think it's a decent conservative solution, but you're not seeing any of that come from conservatives. So they keep talking about trans issues, so it kind of invokes the response of having to defend trans people, of course.
And of course I'm going to ask.
Yeah, sorry, I started streaming basically like 10 in the morning, like 10 to 1 or 2 from now on. I'm trying to get into a good schedule with my wife.
Why? Or even how, but that's it. Those are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. Before we get into any of that, though, let's start off with the Democrats actually doing something that is unheard of, unimaginable, which is showing backbone.
All smart progressives are going in the same exact direction, right?
Yeah.
So
I've been on that direction.
Yeah, so my co-host,
what direction is that?
Anna's obsessed with the labor movement. Totally believes that's the answer. Nina Turner, who's another host on our network, announced today that she set up a new group with Chris Smalls to back the labor movement and to even get funding for the labor movement whenever they go on strike, et cetera. And so that's what pushed FDR. That's what's going to push the next generation. Everything is trending in our direction. The only thing is we can't, snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. There's two icebergs ahead. And so I'm not Pollyannish. I see the icebergs probably better than anybody.
What the fuck is Pollyannish? Does he mean polyamorous?
Everybody else does, and I'm really worried about it. Okay. One is the progressive movement, honestly, and this is where you and I can begin to disagree. Getting too radical and too away from what most Americans want. And the second iceberg.
What do you?
Yeah, that's fair. Just to be clear, like there's all, I believe it's called the Overton window. I'm not a smart guy, so I couldn't really tell you, but I believe that's the window that's somewhat acceptable for people to have, what people are basically ready for when it comes to different reforms or different social political ideas. I believe that's what that means. I can just look it up. I don't even have to sound dumb. I could just go, oh, Google, answer this question for me. Spectrum of ideas, publicly policy, and social issues considered acceptable. Okay, I was right. Cool. Hey, that's one for Papa Got. But yeah, and you have to play within that. Even if you want like really drastic reform in the country, where you want like if you want to tear down the system and rebuild it, you're gonna have to start with kind of progressive reform. You're gonna have to. Most people, if you want, I don't know, free everything, magical, poop, or I don't know what. If you want to be a communist, you got to start somewhere. So we'll just start with, hey, let's advocate for things like a union, healthcare, some kind of universal healthcare program, stuff like that. Go with what people are ready for. It makes perfect sense, and you also don't want to shock the system. So,
what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So look,
he seems he seems like he doesn't even want to be there.
So saying things like. All sports leagues, including professional ones, has to allow trans women. They don't have a choice, etc. That pulls it like 2%. You say, hey, it's a moral issue. It's really important.
Do you think it's
like? I obviously agree. I just, and maybe this is me. Maybe I'm just a little out of touch, but I feel like that's not being said in this way. That's really super. I feel like it's I disagree with it, obviously, but I don't think it's like that big of a deal. I don't think that conservatives are getting pushed away by that. I mean, I guess you can make the argument there. No conservative is going to dial into that idea. But because also part of the idea is to pull conservatives in to be more affirming of LGBTQ. But
sports leagues are like the most important thing in the whole wide world.
Do you think it's actually a significant issue? Do you think that is a significant issue or a driver of the conversation, or cynically weaponized by Republicans with like some liberals taking the bait? And then having
Hasan is one of those liberals taking the bait
conversation about it instead of being like, fuck off, nobody cares about this, stop talking about this.
I mean, yeah, if that's what Hasan would say when it comes up, I would be like, yeah, sure, that's fine. If you want to say like, I don't give a shit, who cares? This doesn't really matter right now. If that's what Hasan was saying, I'd be like, totally, that would be perfectly fine. But I keep seeing, or I have historically a few times seen him defend it. But if his take is like, yeah, like it's just something when it comes up, people should just dismiss it and be like, I don't care. This isn't a real issue. It's a distractor. Like, okay, cool, like go for it.
This immediately.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what the right wing does. They weaponize every single issue. What I'm trying to get progressives to do is stop falling in the trap. So the minute they say it,
but do you think,
our side comes out and goes, no, this is the most important issue.
Cenk is so weird because I don't disagree with him, but I feel like his energy is disproportionate over the
Who disagrees is a Nazi. You just called 98% of the country Nazis.
Okay.
What are you doing? You're alienating voters like crazy.
I can see why Hasan maybe doesn't like his uncle.
Easy.
Do you think that organizers on the ground, both trans and cis, that are or members of labor unions are even using this as a talking point in any meaningful capacity?
Probably not too much.
Or is it simply reactionary Republicans bringing this up because they tried and unsuccessfully failed to push the anti-trans button with bathroom bills?
Except for the fact that they pass all those bills, which I despise. I hate those bills.
Let me just clarify something here.
Sounds so exhausting.
In the lead up to the 2016 election, you had the North Carolina bathroom bill that was anti-trans, right? You have to have the gender assigned at birth be the bathroom that you go to.
That totally failed.
Okay,
right.
That failed. That was so objectively a failure that Donald Trump came out and said, I don't give a fuck.
I mean, listen, I get it. I understand what Hasan is basically saying, that the attempts, the conservative attempts to like shit on LGBTQ people are generally failing, and that just going this extreme is just an opportunity to try to get people back on their side. But if you just don't it doesn't really seem like a lot of people are tuning into the trans sports conversation too much. Online, a lot more people, yeah, sure, especially maybe a year or so ago, or less than a year ago even. But it seems like for the most part, nobody's really shitting and farting their pants over this particular issue. Most people just kind of forsake it and like, yeah, we don't really care too much. We're more focused on getting people just like gender affirming care.
Where Caitlyn Jenner shits, as long as she's shitting in Trump Tower, right? Something along those lines.
But
I'm
then
paraphrasing.
He tried to ban them from the military.
Hold on. Let me finish.
That was also unpopular. Sorry, go ahead.
Let me finish. Okay?
Goodness. These two hate
he
each
tried
other.
to ban trans people from the military. That was also unpopular. So, what did Republican interest groups do? The family, moral family, Christianity fundamentalist groups. What did they do? They went back to the drawing board and they looked for a reasonable sidestep that would still be anti-trans, that would open the door to anti-trans conversations,
sure,
that they could push for, that was more popular. What did they find? They found that Americans love the concept that is bullshit, meritocracy. What is the most meritocratic process in the entire country, maybe in the world? Sports. Americans love.
Just to be clear, my understanding is meritocracy is the idea of working hard will net you more benefits. It is true. It's just that we also mix that with nepotism. Obviously, Hasan has benefited from that substantially. But that doesn't mean that working hard, oh, dude, come on, bro, don't kill me. That doesn't mean that working hard isn't going to help you. Like, it's still going to be a general benefit. You can work hard and it will have a positive impact on your life. Just to be clear.
Love sports, and Americans believe that meritocracy is real, and it's especially real in sports. So they changed the narrative away from trans people can't pee and poo in the fucking bathrooms to trans people want to destroy sports. It was simply just another way to attack trans people, which is precisely why I think a lot of people correctly looked at that and went, why the fuck are we talking about this?
Well,
this is
Hasan's not one of those people, though, right? Like, Hasan, like, shit his pants and had a meltdown over this topic. If he was consistently, if from the start he was like, yeah, I don't think it's a big deal, but it doesn't really matter, I'd be like, okay, yeah, your argument's great. But he's been having, last year was pretty, was full of the trans sports conversation. I think, was it like a year ago? My concept of time is fucking crazy. So, but I think that's a good way to engage. It doesn't seem, there are some things that you have to address, and then sometimes we've already addressed the trans sports thing. It seems like it doesn't really have a lot of water. So what's the point in sitting and having like this robust conversation about it? Like, we already know that there's a general unfair advantage. But if people want to explore solutions on how to include trans people in sports, I'm all ears. I'm totally fine with the concept of that as long as it's fair. That's it.
Ultimately marginal You just want to fucking eliminate trans people from public spaces. And I have never given an ounce of legitimacy to that argument.
What?
Despite what public polling says.
What are you talking about? He just talks about it all the time. What the fuck? He called Abin Preach transphobic for not wanting trans people to compete in sports, or for thinking that it's unfair that trans people would compete with cis people. He called them transphobic. What are you talking about? Does he forget what happened like 6 months ago?
Because the reality is, no one gives a fuck about it. Okay. Let me tell you something that's more important than public polling, however. Because you brought up...
So far, I don't even see where we disagree.
Okay, so you brought up state legislatures, Republicans like passing incredibly, horrifyingly psychotic anti-trans bills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're passing this. Yet there is no viable single-issue voter out there that is like desiring these anti-trans bills. Although, if you ask, Americans directly about, like, what do you think about a 14-year-old trans girl, like, participating in a swim meet, they might say 56% might say, fuck that, that's wrong, we shouldn't do that. But the reality is there isn't any real momentum on the ground for anti-trans shit, okay? Voters do not give a fuck about trans people overall. The overwhelming majority of voters actually have apathy for trans people. They just don't care about it because they think that there's no trans people in their lives whatsoever. Republicans...
Yeah, that's probably true. You'd be surprised how many trans people... Like, I come from pretty conservative backgrounds, and there's a lot of gay... And I know, surprisingly, a decent amount of gay and trans people, a lot of which don't feel comfortable coming out to their conservative family. Not that their conservative family is horribly hateful, but that's one of those interesting things, because I legitimately know a good amount of gay and trans people. And I come from a pretty conservative background. Like, I have a conservative mom and... deadbeat dad. I guess he's a progressive. And the thing is that nobody in my family or other families that I know that with these trans people or these gay people are hateful. But a lot of the young, they still don't feel comfortable coming out to them. And I think it's just kind of the atmosphere of like the don't ask, don't tell atmosphere. And it just puts a little bit of a damper on things. It makes people feel a little uncomfortable. So it's unfortunate because it's such a slow breaker of the family for one side to be on the very religious don't ask, don't tell perspective, and then the other side feeling like they can't come out and express to their family like, hey, like this is just part of me. I wish we could just talk about it and move on from it. And it kind of sucks because I feel like it harms the family unit a bit. It feels like it kind of clusters like families up. It's a little disappointing, you know? So, I don't know. Unfortunate stuff.
However, have kept on pushing the anti-trans button over and over again and made it their major fucking talking point.
That's right.
That has yielded horrifyingly bad results for them. And instead of like fucking assassinating Christopher Rufo, for example,
who's that?
Who's one of the leading guys here at the Manhattan Institute that was like doing the CRT stuff, doing the anti-trans stuff. Instead of going, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You ruined our midterm chances when Biden had a historically bad economy, when a red tsunami was supposed to happen. That was a major failure on their part, one that actually has led to Kevin McCarthy's ouster as the speaker right now, a domino effect of like the Republican Party imploding in and of itself, partially because the only thing that they have been looking for, the only thing that they have, the only tangible policy position is just increasing the dial of transphobia, but there's not enough people on the ground who are demanding it. And those who are demanding it are increasingly more psychopathic, which is pushing away normal fucking Republican voters who are just like, I just want tax cuts, man. Like, I'm racist, sure, but like, the fuck's going on? Like, I don't give a shit about this. Like, why are you talking about dismembering children's genitals all?
You know what I think? Here's my thing. Here's one of the reasons why I feel like there is a lot of anti-LGBTQ sentiment going on. I think it's just because you're not allowed to be racist anymore. You know, if you're racist, you get in a lot of trouble. You get canceled. But if you're homophobic, people will clap for you. Not even trying to be. It's kind of, and I don't agree with it, obviously, but it's weirdly true. It's really bizarrely true. You know, you have Black Twitter defending black people, but where the fuck's gay Twitter? Like, start doxing this shit. No, don't do that. Don't do that. But I don't know. I just feel I feel like there's almost a level of truth. I feel like it's almost like the Overton window of bigotry. It's like, oh, the only thing acceptable right now is to hate trans people. If you hate black people or anything, you're gonna get in a lot of trouble, which you should. But we don't have enough of the there's not enough people saying, hey, don't hate my gay son. You know what I mean? It's fucked up.
All the fucking time. You sound like a psycho. They're getting outrage fatigue, and it has demonstrably been a failure. And that's part of the reason why you don't see Trump talking too much about wokeness or trans people. He like brings
he's
it up.
Just admitting that he fucked. He's just admitting that he was like fucking inflating the prices of his fucking homes and shit
up every now and then in his commentary, but it is far less than Ron DeSantis, wouldn't you say, who is an objectively less popular candidate.
Yeah. So
sure.
With the exception of Trump and DeSantis thing, which we can get into, I actually agree with everything you said. So now let me give it to you from my perspective and why I'm concerned about it. So number one, Republicans bring this up because they're fishing. All their positions are deeply unpopular. So they're fishing for one position that they could finally get some sort of popularity on, right? So they dig all the way down to
maybe actual empowerment of the middle class would be a good one.
Trans sports at the high school level, and they get over 70% saying, okay, no, meritocracy, we shouldn't do that, right? So if at that point, you and I agree, like, we fight back when they propose a bill, and we do the best we can, and we aggressively make the case that you just made, and that I make all the time on the air, right? And then, we're okay with it, and everybody would agree. The country is in favor of trans rights, okay? So, but in the midst of these conversations, one of the things that happens is, okay, on air, I say, okay, you're asking, fine. I think at the high school level, trans girls should be able to participate with biological girls.
Well, the honest question, why the fuck are you even talking about that? Like, I'm not even trying to be a dick, but I think this kind of gets, like, listen, it's crazy. I really don't like this guy, Cenk. Every time I watch him, he's not for me. But that's the whole point. We're all, as doing commentary like myself and them and everybody, right? They're obviously more successful, but we're all generally going to be reactionary. Usually you'll see somebody say something and then you'll react to it in some capacity, saying, hey, this is good or bad or whatever, and affirming, not affirming, et cetera, et cetera. The point is that this transport shit, it's not really, there's nothing really going on with it. And this is something that my wife has been kind of drilling into my head on some things. On our Rob and Dan podcast, link in the description. Okay, it's very good. It's once a week, every Sunday, and you watch the whole segment, or you can watch clips from it. It's incredible. We have the segments posted or the full thing. But anyway, something my wife's really been reinforcing into my head is to productively not give a fuck about some things. There are some things that we as a society need to, from a productive perspective, not care about. That doesn't mean that you think the entire thing is silly, but just don't care about it. Like, when it comes to trans people in sports, like, I personally think that there's an unfair advantage, but this isn't even close to number one priority. It doesn't really matter right now that much. It doesn't need to be constantly addressed and talked about and made to be the center stage. So if something like that comes up, it's like, okay, yeah, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. It's really, like, it matters, but it doesn't. It's just kind of not something that matters too much. There's just something about it. And I think people should gravitate more towards, like, productively not caring about things in their lives that don't really, it's something to think about.
Because
why do you talk about that at all beyond how?
Because it comes up. Because there's a bill. I'm fighting against the bill.
Okay, but why do you talk about it beyond?
But it's not just talking about something. It's how you talk about it. So the bill comes up like, look, they're trying to do this again. It's not going to work. They're being stupid. Blah blah blah. Let's move on. It's a 15-second segment. You're good. The problem is when you run a station like the Young Turks, I imagine that he's looking for content. So what happens is you platform a perspective of trans people in sports, and then you have to make it seem important. So you talk about it as if this is some kind of a threat. And I'm just kind of guessing. I don't know if this is a factual, but I would imagine that this is kind of the way it goes. And you try to drive people up to make it seem like it's a bigger deal than it is. And then it kind of, that's it. It's like the balloon bursts. That's, I think, the issue, no?
On it being a distraction, perfectly cooked up, because you said you agree with me. Why do you talk about it beyond it being a fucking bill that is laughably unpopular, so unpopular that, like,
incredible. Not so unpopular that it didn't pass in all the red states.
Wait, what?
The trans bills that passed, not about bathrooms, but about sports and all that horse crap.
But none of those bills were passed with popular support. Cenk.
I know they're passed by Republican legislators, and the Republican legislators are appeasing their base.
Okay,
and their base is maniacal, and their base wants it.
No, they're not. That you and I are entirely incorrect.
So they go fishing in that area, and in that conversation, I say, hold on, let me finish.
Okay.
I say, at some point, look, my real opinion is, at the professional level, yes, of course the leagues get to make their own decision, and sometimes, yes, trans women have an advantage, and the league is allowed to say, no, we're not going to allow it, okay? So what happens next? Every single person that I know in mainstream media saw that what they perceive as a progressive community then called me a Nazi. Yeah. Then they go, okay, progressives are lunatics. I'm writing all of them off, right? Are you kidding me? Because somebody's had like this microscopic difference of opinion with like the most radical end of the progressive base, their right-wing pivot.
I mean, I think part of it is just stop giving a shit, right? Like, don't care what that person says. Those people are doing the same thing you're doing. You're having, you're probably platforming a take a little bit disproportionate, with a little bit of disproportionate energy than it deserves. And then they're doing the same thing to your perspective. Like they're doing, like it doesn't matter. Like I try to, and it can be hard because you get criticism from people. Sometimes you just have to just not give a shit. It's easy to say, obviously, especially from my perspective. I'm not exactly pulling the numbers like I was, but sometimes you just have to do your best to try to not give a fuck.
Republican Nazi? Well, okay, you guys sound nuts. Okay, and don't do that.
You think
just say
I'm practicing though, because I made my take on the internet that only conservatives. I made a clip for my shorts content where I think I had two people got really pissed off. The one was that nobody's shoving LGBTQ shit down your throat more than conservatives, because like Republican media won't shut the fuck up about it, and people complained and said I need to get outside and experience the world because it's shoved down their throats because they have to do pronouns at work. Wow, how horrible. And sometimes there's gay people in movies. It's like, okay, well, that sucks. I don't know if that's what you consider shoving down your throat. It's a little weird to me. I would consider it being shoved down your throat if like there was RuPaul was on the dollar bill, right? Or if at every cemetery there was a fucking, I don't know, there was a gay pride flag, or if it was in the Pledge of Allegiance, or you get my point. Okay, if anything's being shoved down your throat, it's probably religion, and that's fine, do your thing, but gay people aren't being shoved down your throat. I'm like, relax. And people got very upset with that take, and they call me a big fat fuck, and it's kind of funny. So yeah, you just gotta deal with people saying dumb shit about you. Sometimes it is what it is.
Hey, I disagree. So what?
Mainstream media literally called you a bestiality-loving horsefucker when you tried to run for office in California. You think they needed the fucking? You think they needed like 11 trans people with anime?
Why do you want to fuck horses? I don't understand. Where's that take come from?
Avatars on Twitter calling you a Nazi to be like
on a platter.
That's crazy.
And
they
then
have
there
material
are real
interest.
issues that are much larger.
They have
that also cost us, and it makes it look like we are extreme. When in reality, 2/3 of the country's on our side. Take the fucking win. Take the win. So here's another one, and this one I don't know how you're going to light up on this one.
No, this is
on the
important.
police. It's
It's just going. Cenk just talk. He's a yap machine.
Terrible slogan.
Okay.
A terrible idea.
We're moving away from other talking points. Let's get back to the one issue that we were talking about. My perspective is that
it's so interesting. Both of them are dog shit at having these conversations. It's just that somehow Hasan's better, so he looks like the conversation daddy. You know what I mean? It's fucking weird. What happened? Oh,
they have every interest to fuck you every single time. Mainstream media does, because of their underlying material interest in defending the corporate oligopoly structure that we have. This is who funds
shit!
them.
It's the Matrix out to get Cenk. Maybe Cenk just kind of embarrasses himself when he talks, and maybe that's why people go after him.
This is how,
because I don't know what they're referring to, but like I don't see people really criticizing like Jon Stewart in the way that they criticize Cenk. So I mean, Jon Stewart's incredibly intelligent and funny and handsome, of course, and Cenk not so much. He's not a bad looking guy, just not for me, right? But maybe that's what it is. But do we think that it actually is some kind of a like media conspiracy to be like, oh, this is a bad guy. He says a stinky wiener. Let's get him. I don't know.
This is how people rise into positions of power in the media infrastructure.
He has a part of this already. Wiener.
Personally, you've seen it happen to you at MSNBC. Yeah. So like, there is no reason why they're not looking at like magical trans people on Twitter and going, oh, that's it. Here's the reality.
Papa, when you were in the Boy Scouts, did your salute contains serving God? It was the Boy Scouts is pretty religiously focused. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the specifics, but it is a fairly religiously focused thing.
They're being crazy again. They're calling Cenk a Nazi.
Yes, they are. And they're looking for any excuse. I agree with that. But then stop giving them excuses, which is the point you started with.
Okay. there's a major disagreement here. We are at odds,
but we're not at odds. You say don't talk about it. I say don't talk about it. We say you say you're against the bill. I say I'm against the bill. You're for trans rights. I'm for trans rights. But my point is
but the difference is the same people that call you transphobic also called me transphobic all the fucking time. The difference is I don't change my perspective at the end of the day, or even offer it any fucking additional light, because who fucking cares? You just do what you think is right and you keep pushing. And I think that it's very dangerous and very scary when you get moved by your base of support that you have worked tirelessly for 20 years and like building and solidifying, turning on you and saying you're right wing now. I think that didn't
happen though. I agree with you. It's 11 people on Twitter, so our audience is just as gigantic as it's always been. So you can go ahead and cry about it.
I don't know if that's true. Didn't they have to like shut down a bunch of brands? Like, didn't they try? And I could be wrong again, but my understanding from what I know about the Young Turks, didn't they try to basically be a 24-hour news cycle and it failed, and they've had to make substantial cuts and beg for money? Same, by the way, join my YouTube membership for $2 a month. I don't know.
If you're among those 11 people.
Among us.
So I'm not worried about that. Haas, I gave it as a small example, and defund the police is a much larger example.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second.
Progressives are getting pigeonholed by mainstream media and Republicans as radicals, when in reality, we are the overwhelming majority of the country. So we need to focus and get our messaging right.
And that's why, like, that's why looking at a couple random people and greatly emphasizing the impact that they have, and even attributing like the mainstream media's perspective shift on progressives, when you and I both know that they never fucking gave a shit, and they don't even need like a couple of random trans people to call you a transphobe to like justify their hatred for progressives. Okay,
let's go to a larger.
There's no reason to talk about that now. As far as
they needed like a fucking do these two need a mediator at their fucking family parties? I mean, holy shit.
Like there was one other point that I wanted to make, because we were talking about state legislatures. This is really important. Please. I think that a broader Republican project, and I think you'll agree with me on this, has been that they want to dismantle the power of the legislative body and then utilize the state legislatures where they know they have control due to gerrymandering and ridiculous district maps, where they can, even if they don't have popular support, even if they lose the majority of the votes, still maintain a majority in the House and the Senate, right? State House and state Senate.
It's one of the most important things in the country.
Absolutely. And then there's a secondary side to this, though, because there is the judiciary. So they've also they've dismantled the legislative body. They have pushed their power in undemocratic ways through the state legislatures, and then also solidified that power and codified it by court packing, right? So they have this very open project within the Federalist Society, all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States, where they have hyper-reactionary judges that they've placed in positions of power through appointments, right? So when you do that, there is no need for a democratic process, which is precisely the reason why saying that these Republicans are actually acting out the desires of their psychotic, bloodthirsty base when they're pushing for, trans bills that are getting passed in every single state legislature is objectively false. Why is it objectively false? Because one, Republicans have never cared about their base. Let's be fucking real. They just use the culture war issues as a way to like draw up support. But in reality,
is that true? Do we think that Republicans don't care about their base? I don't know if I've never really gotten that. And what would the argument there be? I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. I mean, I feel like both sides are just trying to get voted in regardless, and then they'll generally do whatever they need to do to maintain their base. I mean, that's the thing. It seems like when it comes to these trans issues, people, the conservatives don't seem to, or Republican voters, they don't seem to necessarily care too much. That's what it seems like. They don't seem to care too much. So they pass different bills and laws, right, to exclude LGBTQ people in different ways, to appease their sense of religion. But I don't know if they don't. I mean, maybe they don't care about their base. I don't know if Trump definitely doesn't. I don't think Trump gives a fuck about anybody. Maybe it's right. I guess I haven't really thought about it, so I haven't thought about how much Republicans care about the people that voting for them. Same thing with Democrats, though. But maybe I just haven't thought critically on this, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it, I guess.
They don't really give a shit about what the base wants. If they did, then they would have never in a million years allowed the Roe v. Wade decision to be overturned, because that was a much better way to just keep dangling in front of the most active base of support they have, white evangelical Protestants, and never actually push to actively dismantle Roe v. Wade and completely criminalize abortion in red states. That's why they have a major fuck up right now, because they're suffering from their own success. So I don't think that pointing to state legislatures and bills that they've passed to say, no, there is actually a decent amount of support for anti-trans legislation from the Republican base of support is correct, especially when all signs point to the opposite. At the national party level, the Republican Party is currently going through a crisis, an identity crisis. They have capitulated to incredibly bloodthirsty, psychotic fucking culture.
Fucking bloodthirsty, baby. Wow.
Warriors for so long that they end up leading like Ron DeSantis, pushing for objectively unpopular bills, okay, by utilizing the state legislatures, and then suffering the consequences on the perception in the national party.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. My thing is there really this national, or excuse me, is there this national poor perception of Ron DeSantis? Because my understanding is we're just basing that off of the fact that he's not doing particularly well right now in like the Republican primaries, right? But Trump is just doing so well, right? That doesn't necessarily mean people dislike DeSantis in the Republican Party. It just means that they like other people more. Wouldn't that indicate that?
So look, again, there's a lot I agree with, but let's break it down one by one. So it can be both, Haas. It can be that, they've done the gerrymandering. Gerrymandering has done most of the work for them, and it made their seats pretty much impenetrable. So if the Republican legislators do something, it doesn't necessarily mean that the voters of that state want it, for sure, right? But it can be that also the vicious end of the Republican base does want it, and the polling indicates that they do want it, right? And so, but the larger point...
Well, it seems like there are people in there that do want it. It just doesn't seem like there's enough people in there that don't want it. Does that make sense? Like, they're just ambivalent about it. I feel like conservatives... the framing here is that conservatives don't, like Hasan said, conservatives don't really care about trans people. Like, that's what it comes out. Most of them. There's some that do, and then there's some that do in a negative way, and then there's some that don't care at all in just a neutral way. It doesn't seem like there's any conservatives that are like, yeah, we really need to pass trans legislation. So that's kind of the perspective going on there, I would say.
Point here is...
I don't agree. I don't think
Hold on. Let me be clear, because it depends. If you say, do you hate trans people? The answer is no in the polling for American people. They are in favor of trans rights. They are in favor of treating trans people in the same exact way about employment, health care, etc., which is wonderful. And again, 2/3 of the country is progressive. Okay, so when you go to ask them about bathrooms, no. When you ask them about the military, no. These people are willing to give their lives for this country, and you don't want them. What kind of a monster are you? So the American people are on our side on all those things. That's why they had to go digging for this stupid high school sports thing, right? And on that, I've seen the polling, and it's over 70% of Americans are on the side of banning them. Right now, I'm on the other side. I'm with the 30%. I leave the kids alone. Right? It's not. It doesn't matter if your daughter was going to break a record or whatever. Just calm down. Stop checking the gender.
Why? What isn't that? Whatever. Okay. I mean, I feel like that might matter to somebody that your daughter's going to break the record. I could see why some parents have complaints about some of this stuff, but okay, whatever.
Girls of kids, you're sickos. Leave them alone, right? So, but having said that, what they're trying to do, Haas, and this is the oldest trick in the book, and they did this back in the 1980s, is they dig until they find something unpopular, and they make Democrats or the left wing attack them on it. So, for example, flag burning. So flag burning, everybody knows it's protected by the First Amendment. They know it's protected by the First Amendment, but they want to make it seem like we hate America and we hate the American flag, and we all want to burn it. So they contrive this bullshit issue. No one's burning the American flag. It's happened like twice in the last 20 years. And so...
I mean, I regularly burn the American flag because that's how you retire American flags, just so people know. There's an official retirement flag ceremony, and I'm an Eagle Scout, so I would participate back in the day. And I would help retire flags. That's a real story. So, does it matter what I'm saying? No, I don't know. I just felt like telling you.
So, and then the Democrats can't help but say, well, it is a First Amendment issue. You can burn the flag, and they go, aha, you unpatriotic assholes, right? So that's my point is the same point you're making, which is don't fall for that trap. So just say, hey, we disagree on this. Move on.
You're saying don't fall for that trap and don't even defend it, or don't even. I'm saying
defend on the bills, because when there's a bill, you have to defend.
Yeah.
But then point out super aggressively what the Republicans are doing wrong.
Yeah. Chelsea Manning has a question for you. Q for Cenk. is it possible that trans people are reacting the way we are because we hear people make these talking points, and the next thing we know, people are saying, this is why I had to become a conservative time and time again? And that right-wing slant is true for the likes of Dave Rubin and many others, even including like former TYT people. I think that's where a lot of people are defensive when they hear you talk about this, or when they hear people fall into the trap of like jumping on every single non-issue that ultimately turns into discourse, like bonus holes or whatever the fuck, like some psychotic weirdo British person came up with at the fucking Daily Mail, right? If you are even pushing that discourse as though this is like real and applied and genuinely a threat to democracy because it's something that everyone is like forcing you at gunpoint to utilize, then all of a sudden you are a culture warrior, whether you admit it or not, because these issues are distractions and they're stupid as fuck, and that nobody should even talk about it, let alone amplify it. I'll take it one step further, though. There is one other issue here, and that is the Democratic Party. What do reactionaries do? They have no agenda, right? They have no agenda. They react and they try to claw back civil liberties. That's their goal. Okay. And if the Democratic Party is not actually pushing, okay, if the Democratic Party is not actually pushing material realities to change in a positive way and giving something to the Republicans to react to, right, to fight against, then all of a sudden, that the reactionaries are leading the discourse. Yeah. And that is the problem, which is why whenever issues like this come up, because listen, I have a very dynamic stream. People come in here all the time. They say a million different things and they want me to address it or they want me to talk about it. I am very terse, very strict about like whenever someone comes in and they're like, address what Anna said or address what...
My favorite thing about reacting to Hasan's content is I don't have to, because he's pretty open about how you don't even have to, I don't have to say anything. All right, and it's fair use in this case because he's open with it. Okay, he defended XQC, bro. I don't have to say anything.
Cenk said, "I'm like, no, fuck off. I don't care. Shut the fuck up. We're talking about."
I mean, I agree with what he's saying. Generally speaking, yeah, sure. I mean, when it comes down to it, you try not to nitpick about stupid issues, which is something that I think I've done historically, kind of. You know, in the way that for me, it's for me the way that I've nitpicked issues that don't matter was back in the day when I would kind of do the SJW dunk fest. You know, you'd see like a trans person or like a fucking person of color make like a stupid point, in my opinion. They'll say like it's transphobic not to date trans people or something dumb. And instead of even either ignoring it or just being like, yeah, I disagree, like it's not that big of a deal though, I would have a fucking meltdown about it. I would be like, no, this is ridiculous. You're blah, blah, blah. It's just like, you know, so I've done it too, but it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Nobody actually thinks that. Nobody in their right fucking mind thinks it's transphobic to date a trans person, to not want to date a trans person, unless it's because you think that they're not real people or something. Most people, it's just a preference thing. But kind of giving into that, that's what happens. You know, you'll have some fucking crazy people that are like, oh my God, Lorax pronouns are valid. And then you're just like, oh no, they're not. And then you platform that person in like a weird way. And all of a sudden people are like, yeah, this is why I hate all fucking trans people. It's just, I don't know. The whole thing is stupid.
Okay. So,
but by the way, that's almost exactly what we said. And everybody called us Nazis. So not everybody, those folks. So look, guys, first of all, let's just be clear on everything. Okay. So number one, I fight for trans rights. I have for 21 years when no one else was. So if you don't like it and you don't believe it, that's up to you. You can do whatever the hell you want. Okay. So, and I just told you all my positions, which are actually 99% identical to the most extreme trans right activists, right? So we have a microscopic difference. So somebody asked me about it. I say it once. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And then a giant pile-on starts because people want clout. They're like, oh, no, he's not as good as me. He's not as pure as me.
Bro, this guy could have just fucking yapped into the mirror in the morning. I don't know. I mean, Cenk is really just looking for a fucking soapbox, bro. Oh my God.
He's a right-winger. He's a Nazi. Okay, so I'm like, I ignore it. And then they just keep going, and I don't give a shit. They could do whatever they want. But then don't pretend that I brought it up. No, you brought it up, and you made it a giant issue, and you're...
Bro, Cenk, it looks like he's shrinking as he's talking. What the fuck's happening? Why is he complaining? This is so stupid, dude. Like, he, like, literally... I mean, if this is the family that Hasan grew up with, I could see why he sucks, but at least he sucks less than Cenk Uygur. This is so fucking boring. It's so stupid. Oh my God.
You're the one hurting the progressive cause and the trans rights cause. We win on every goddamn issue
Among
on
us
trans
balls,
rights. Why are you going and dying on the hill that no one agrees with you on? You're going to ruin trans rights on other issues.
Okay.
We're going to lose because you're being so extreme.
This is what we're talking about. Like, it's not that serious. Like, yeah, the trans sports thing, I get it, but nobody's. It's not this big deal like this in this way where it's having a devastatingly negative impact So I'm talking about he's taking an issue, which I understand. It can be off-putting for people to engage in the discourse of like trans people in sports. I understand that. And it's not even really like an issue for the most part. Most people are just worried about fighting for gender-affirming care for trans people. But this motherfucker is seeming like this is the biggest issue. Like, if you fucking think trans people should be in sports, then you are literally generating transphobia. It's like, not really. It's not that fucking deep, brother. It's a big nothing, but you're sensationalizing how much people give a fuck about this topic. It's almost like you're like almost justifying conservatives complaining about this shit. Like, if somebody said that and you directly said to them like, yeah, you're having a negative impact when it comes to like the perception, this isn't where we're at, that's fine. But he's making it seem like this is like the number one fucking issue. This is literally number one issue here. It's not.
And then every ally you have, you're like, nope, I'm going to be more pure than them.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to burn their bridge down. I don't want any allies. Okay, well then don't have any allies.
Okay, if both of our goals are aligned and we are interested in coalition building and actually fighting for justice, okay, there's two different things to do here. One is try to engage in purges and try to say this purity spiral is self-defeating, which I agree with you on.
100%.
Or the other thing is to just stay the course and just let people chirp into the void and never give them an ounce of pushback.
The left came for Anna super hard. Yeah, okay, maybe that's what it's coming from. Maybe that's where all his angst comes from, because they really went for his his co-host pretty hard, and like this is a pretty major issue to him. I get that. I guess I get it from that perspective then.
Because why? Every single if people are looking for class, if
come
people are
on,
looking
get
for
out of here.
No, that's not get out of here.
So I'll tell you exactly what happens.
Because
this is really important because you know why? So Haas. So every time we say,
I hate this Haas thing he's doing. He's got to stop it. It's not organic. All right, it's fake. Stop doing it. It's fucking fake. Stop, please. Love of God.
Any little thing, all the other streamers and stuff, these come in and go, oh, we're better than the Young Turks. We're better than the Young Turks. We agree with you 200%. They're such monsters. And they clutch their pearls and stuff, and etc. And then we go, okay, guys, hold on. We said a tiny thing. Okay. You guys had this nuclear reaction. Okay, say another tiny thing and defend our position for like 3 minutes on air, right? And then another round of nukes, right? We're better than the Young Turks. We're the most pure. We're the most progressive. Radical, radical, radical. We have to be the most radical. And if you don't believe us, then you're a Nazi. Well, and then I made it an issue. I talked about it for about a total of maybe 3 minutes in all the Young Turks, okay? And then everyone else talked about it for 200 hours and pretended that it was us.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing that there's two different parts here. One, you've immediately ascribed to bad faith arguments to these people. You're like saying they're cloud operated.
Do.
Okay, so one, that might not be the case. There might be genuine disagreements. That's number one. But
it's funny because every time somebody criticizes Hasan, it's not a genuine agreement to him. It's always just a clout chase. So it's interesting that he's so level-headed when it comes to his fucking uncle. But okay.
At this point, you think, well, you know better than them, right?
No, they could disagree.
Okay,
I don't give a shit.
Okay, but listen. But like, okay.
But okay,
even if they are bad faith,
I'm going to call them Nazis.
Okay, even if they are bad faith, right? Even if they're bad faith, then what the fuck are you doing giving them more clout?
I don't say anything. And then they do 200 shows about it.
It doesn't matter.
And then pretend I'm the one saying it.
It doesn't matter.
So can we agree that all the others, like Lance or whatever the fuck their names are?
No.
Oh, no, they should all shut the fuck up then. Okay.
Wait, Lance. Is Lance is that the surf guy? The surf. What is his name? The Surf's TV? Oh, his name is Lance. Apparently this guy's really gotten to him. What the fuck? That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to give these people attention, bro. You can't fucking acknowledge these guys. You can't name him. Then he gets to make a video. It's like Cenk and a meltdown because of me. I'm a fucking Among Us warrior balls, Damn.
Okay, right? Because that's what you're saying.
Dude.
Why are you making a big issue out of it? Because I only said it for 1 minute. They said it for 200 minutes. Why don't they shut the fuck up?
Oh my God.
I'm gonna lose my mind.
I don't even understand what we're disagreeing about. So we agree 99% on the issue.
He's having a fucking meltdown. This is insane.
And we agree 99% that it's not a major issue, and people are making a big deal out of it.
I think the anger that people feel towards that sort of thing inevitably derives from offering any fucking light to that conversation, especially when you understand that it is just like bullshit talking points that have been focus tested and being brought up. The moment that you give it any validity, okay, and now I'm not even talking about like.
Let's talk about a general thing.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm not even talking about like talking to other leftist people or like defending your positions or whatever. I'm talking about how deeply and undesirably unproductive it is to offer any amount of consideration to literally talking points that are cooked up in a fucking laboratory about 0.1% of the fucking population.
As they do 200 shows back to back.
There are a million streamers.
Are you telling them?
There are a million streamers that have not only said things about you, but have said things about me as well. There's a difference between you and I, though, because no matter what happens, when people do write those things or people do say those things about me, I've learned the hard way not to give it any credence whatsoever.
I mean, it is true. Hasan has drastically reduced the React train. That seems to be his whole thing, is like no free clout kind of a thing. And it makes sense. Don't give any validity to people's whatever they're saying about you, which is kind of smart if you think about it. I mean, that's kind of that's what conservatives typically do. They kind of just have their opinion. They don't really engage in it, and or the discourse against them. And if they do, it's generally very abstract. So it's like, yeah, do your thing,
and stay the fucking course. And ultimately, if people have made up their minds that I am a transphobic person, then that's, GG's. There's nothing I can do about that. If people think that I'm bad on racial issues or if I'm a misogynistic person, then there's nothing that I can change about their perspective. They are entirely too malleable, which is why I have assumed...
Well, I mean, maybe they're right, dude. Maybe they're fucking right, Hasan. What the fuck, dude? Maybe they're right, bro. I don't know. Honestly, I just think that Hasan's... frankly, I just think Hasan's a dickhead, and I don't think that... he's just not for me, because he's an asshole. I don't think he's a particularly genuine person. I think he's just kind of a piece of shit. So that's where I come from.
Positions on
same about
so
me,
many
though,
things
right?
that the American population considers radical, whether it be foreign policy and what I believe in, or whether it be trans issues, even if it's something that Americans across the board consider to be like unpopular. The reason why I can stay the course in spite of that pushback is because I fucking ignore it, because I know that it is unproductive. That's it.
Yeah,
and the second thing I will say, and this is something that I try to talk to my audience about quite frequently, is that being a progressive is not about having black people or trans people hype you up all the fucking time. There are going to be plenty of moments.
Yes, it is. That's all it is about for me, dude. Hype me up. Black and trans people, lend me your spirit. Lend me your powers. Give me your passes. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Sorry. It's a little too much.
Where you are going to be at odds with activists. There is going to be plenty of moments where you have disagreements with the marginalized communities that you claim to speak on behalf of, okay? And ultimately, it's not even about a logical conclusion to those problems. It's about being empathetic, right? That's at the heart of the matter.
So let's
being
do
empathetic.
a super important distinction, okay? Because, and I don't think I made a good enough case for this distinction, and I want to be way clear. There's a difference between randos in the world that care about this issue, whether they agree with me or disagree with me, or they heard the wrong thing about me, or they have heard the right thing and they still think this guy's a Republican and I hate him. No problem, okay? And media figures, streamers, etc. Those guys are largely scorpions, and I mean,
your nephew is one of them, so just keep that in mind, brother.
Because the incentives and disincentives create scorpions. Because when you attack someone else,
I thought mommy and daddy scorpions having sex made scorpions, bro. That's crazy.
You get into the algorithm loop on YouTube, mainly YouTube, but in some other places as well, and you try to get attention. So they don't even know. I hope they don't know, a lot of them, that they're doing it on purpose. I hope they're not doing it on purpose.
There's no way that Cenk is this short, bro. This is fucking crazy. Like, it's okay. Short kings unite, but fuck.
But probably some of them are, right? But they think like, no, this is really important. I have to correct the record by attacking the Young Turks. Oh, look at that. My views went up. What a wonderful coincidence. I'm going to do it again and again and again. And this is not just about radical left. Are you crazy? No way. The right wing started this. Why did Steven Crowder dress up as me?
Yeah. Right? I was about to say, listen, but you're...
So why did Jimmy Dore attack me like a nut job? Why did Sargon of Akkad go back to like 15 years?
Partially
why
because...
did Sam Harris, why did all of them attack us?
Partially because you respond.
We're the largest.
Partially because you respond. It's called getting farmed. Trust me, I know from personal experience what that's like. For a very long time, baby. I got farmed like a motherfucker, okay?
Yeah, it is true. I mean, in some of the controversies I've been in, because I've had I've also learned the hard way too. Not responding to some people just makes it kind of go away for the most part. And sometimes I'll respond like generally to an issue, but people will lose interest if they don't get a response back and forth. So fuck it, you know.
Because just like you, perhaps because I am also as stubborn as you are, I couldn't shut the fuck up anytime there was like any error. Okay, whenever someone said, "This is what Hasan believes" or whatever the fuck, I immediately rushed to correct the record, thinking that there was good faith discussion to be had. Now, out of the people that are actually criticizing you, there are people who I do like, who I do appreciate. I'm not going to get into that part of the conversation because I feel like that's going to blow a lid in this. It's going to make you blow a gasket. But the reality is that ultimately, if you want to have...
I agree with Lance. That's what he wants to say.
A productive... if you want to have a productive and successful coalition, you just can't stress that shit out, okay? You can't.
No, I'm good with
even
it.
If you say
my
you like
shit
what we're
out,
saying,
bro.
you come to the Young Turks. If you don't like it and you want super radical weirdos, there's like a million shows for you.
That's what you're doing. Like you're casting everyone else in a bad light. Don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't even bring it up. That's it.
Okay, so I know I've been punched in the face 200 times,
when
and I'm not allowed to punch back.
Exactly, 100.
Yeah, that's kind of the advice there. I mean, dude, Cenk is a baby. Hasan's advice is not bad. Like, it really is not bad advice. Like, it's decent advice. Like, don't respond to everybody who has an issue with you. You know, sometimes, and again, this is something that it takes a while to learn. Something that, like, again, my wife helps me with. It's just like, if you put something out there and you are proud of it and you respect that take and you can appreciate it and you feel like you're correct about it, sometimes people having a negative interaction with it is just not worth fucking melting down. Sometimes it's not even worth giving a shit. That's what it comes down to. You know, just kind of move on from it. I mean, I'm not saying all the time. You have to pick and choose when you respond. But if every time you have a take and people are like, "You're a fucking Nazi," it's just like, okay, just move on. You know, it is what it is. People don't really, like, half the time people don't even fucking think, they don't even actually think what they are saying, like, at all. They don't even believe half the, like, I'm at this point now where people, like, will criticize me over dumb shit, and I'm just like, you don't even believe that. I don't even care. You know what I mean? You don't even care. And it's from the people on the right, on the left. I don't care anymore. And that's a very valuable lesson that hopefully moving forward will have a positive impact on me with. But that's how a lot of conservatives interact. Like, look at the Ben Shapiro's. Like, as much as you might hate them, I kind of like Ben. I'm not a big fan of his politics, obviously. There's something about him. He's like a cute little mouse. But, you know, he just, for the most part, doesn't respond to criticism. You know, just takes it and moves on. He puts his perspective out there, and he's just like, okay, whatever. Sometimes that's all you could do. You know?
100%. That's what I'm saying. Yes, you get it. That is what I'm saying. That's what being fucking progressive is, okay? If someone on your side is punching you, you ultimately turn around and say, I don't give a fuck. It's fine, because the real motherfucker whose face I have to punch is out there that actually holds on to all levers of power. Because while we're fucking arguing
Hasan,
about...
why don't you go punch a Nazi? Why don't you go fight Sam Hyde?
the minutia of your perspective on trans issues, or whenever like you choose to engage in like any kind of reactionary framing of an issue, there are actual fucking people out there who are making everyone's lives actively worse. So why the fuck would I ever care about what some dumbass fucking YouTuber has to say? When Ben Shapiro.
Look at that. You see that? He's venting right now. He's a Sussy Among Us character. He's complaining about somebody too. I don't fucking know, dude. I don't know what YouTuber he's talking about, bro. Is it me? Is it you? Is it me? Say it's us, and I'll go pee in my pants.
Is, again, stealing our fucking lunch money and doing whatever the fuck is necessary to keep propagandizing every fucking awful position that makes people's lives worse. That's why I fucking cover Ben Shapiro every day, by the way, you dumb cocksuckers.
Oh my god, shut the fuck up. This is like weird, fake outrage. Is annoying as shit. Holy fuck.
In here who fucking think like, oh, why does the song talk about Ben Shapiro all the time? That's why.
Because he gets you views. That's really what it is. I mean, yeah. Base Ben, am I right?
Because he's the fucking bad guy. You will never see me fucking agree with Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder or any of those fucking bullshit charlatans out there, because those are the fucking bad guys. I don't give a fuck if
he is right though. Like these are the people that fall in like the category of like the Daily Wire, which will help run defense, like Candace Owens, who will help run defense for Andrew Tate and help him misframe his lawsuit and actively lie about what he's even being accused of. Right, like he'll be like, I got accused of TikTok. It's not what his accusations. Like I was accused of TikToks, and no women have come forward. Women have come forward, and that's why he's being charged with sexual assault. That's what this whole lawsuit is about. Like, He's lying. He's just fucking, and they provide platforms for shit like that. Or when they'll have a meltdown about like some fucking TikToker like that says like, oh, I don't know, something stupid, some fucking LGBTQ TikToker saying something dumb, and they'll melt down over that. But again, they'll downplay like the serious harm of like the fucking of like the abuse and like the manosphere and stuff. It's real. Like there's been stories of like some of these guys going to Japan, beating women, fucking sex trafficking, rape, telling women that are raped that it's their fault, they should have picked better men, and then all of a sudden they're, oh, my biggest disagreement is these guys are correct, but like they're kind of like not really super correct. There's some things that they're wrong with. Marriage is actually good. Like that's his big issue. So when you have a bunch of people normalizing sexual assault and telling people they should endure abuse in relationships, that's a big no-no that you can't engage with. But like you can't talk about that. But when it comes to like some fucking 13-year-old person that's like, oh, you can identify as fairy, Ben has to have a goddamn meltdown. Like he's a disingenuous fuck. So
people call me transphobic or racist or whatever the fuck. I'm not gonna strike.
He watches Destiny. That was a direct quote. What quote is that, Hasan? What quote does he want, or what quote are you quoting? I'm curious.
Away from my point of view, but more importantly, and I don't think you do either, but there's this one issue that you and I have. There's one disagreement. There's one difference that you and I have. Yeah. You spend entirely too much time thinking about all the people on your side who fucking hate you, okay? Who say you're bad and wrong, even if it's a
I think the okay comes from Destiny. He's got me doing it too. Sometimes I'll say okay. I feel like that's something that I picked up from engaging with this while engaging with this content. Hasan probably it does engage with Destiny's content. That's fucking crazy.
Understanding. Don't even fucking clear it up. It doesn't matter. People will see where you are genuinely coming from when you keep saying the same shit that you're saying that you've said for 20 fucking years. That's it, okay? A lot of people yelled at me during the fucking Hogwarts drama. There were every trans content creator on Twitter yelled at me, okay, and said, you're a fucking piece of shit, you're transphobic, you can't play one fucking...
Just delete Twitter, dude. Just delete Twitter. That's what I'm saying. The line about Hasan criticizing Ben Shapiro, so it makes sense that folks criticize Hasan. Oh, okay. I don't know what that means, but okay.
Game that's transphobic. It was an idiotic fucking take from the jump. I said it a month in advance that this is entirely too popular of an IP. The best thing to do is not like try to do boycott. Is try to boycott this fucking IP that's completely devoid of the transphobic person that is making money off of it, and instead use it to fundraise or push the issue further. Everybody yelled at me.
Yo, that game sucked dick, by the way. Hogwarts Legacy was just not fun. It was like the only reason that it did as well as it did, I think, is because people... I honestly think that when it came to that Hogwarts game, the only reason that it did as well is because people were trying to dunk on trans people by buying the game. They were like, oh, I don't like trans people, so I'm going to buy this game, blah, blah, blah. And because the game sucks, okay? The only reason I heard about it is because everybody was crying about it, so I bought it. I'm like, okay, I'm curious. It's terrible. It's just not fun. I don't even care if that's the hottest take I've ever had. It's fucking... The game sucked ass. It was fucking boring. I played it for like 5 hours, and I gave up. All right? It was dumb as hell. I just didn't like it. The combat system was fucking ass. It was annoying. It was uncomfortable to play. It was stupid. And there wasn't any, like, I didn't see enough. I don't know. I just suck balls. So.
He said that was incredibly transphobic. What the fuck did I do? I shut the fuck up. I said, you guys are wrong, but it doesn't matter. History will absolve me. It did. Who gives a shit? The game fucking sucked. Right-wingers like Ben Shapiro made commentary on it, saying that Hasan is terrified of trans people in his own audience, and that's why he also has to capitulate to the trans people in his own audience, when if I wanted to capitulate, I would have never said anything about Hogwarts whatsoever, and I would have just stayed the course. And
bro, what's that girl's name? The headmaster girl that was like a real bitch from the movies? That wore pink? Headmaster Harry Potter girl. Who is that? Doris Umbridge. Yeah. She could fucking get it though, I think. Her and Ron Weasley's mom were fucking aces, dude. I'm just saying.
Never played it and said, yes, it's a transphobic fucking game. Damn, but I didn't do that because I'm a stubborn piece of shit. I yelled at the people and I moved on. Many of those people who thought I was transphobic in that fucking fervor have come to the realization that they were maybe wrong. A lot of people don't want to admit that they're wrong, especially when tensions are fucking high. Yeah, it doesn't matter. They finally, quietly...
Just be clear, I'm never wrong about anything ever. Thank God. Ever in my life. I'm fucking always right. I'm a goblin.
To that conclusion that you were on.
Yo, dude, I swear to God, I let her fucking stomp on me, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy. Why would I rule 34 Doris Umbridge? Very inappropriate.
They truly do believe that you are genuinely on their side. That's it. So just make your work speak for itself. You don't have to constantly fucking yell about random trans people online. And yes, that's what being the bigger progressive media person,
the bigger
it revolves around. You have to do that.
Kind of, yeah.
That's it.
All right, look, I'm gonna take your advice. Let's move on because it's a microscopic issue.
There you go. So let's talk about defund the police now.
Okay, so
yeah, I mean, it's gotta hurt though. It's gotta hurt getting lectured by your fucking nephew. Your nephew's more successful than you. Yeah. Okay. Is that it?
So the overall issue. That
and before we do that,
there's
I gotta run the 3-minute ad break real quick, and I'm gonna pee. But you can keep going.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, listen. Here's my thing. That conversation was fucking dumb as fuck, and I didn't.
You might have noticed something.
Shut up! Sorry, I didn't mean to yell. Somebody told me to do that. Yeah, man, that conversation was interesting. I don't like either of those motherfuckers. Somehow Hasan looks better than Cenk coming out the end of that. I'm assuming they talk about defund the police in a way where it's like, actually, defund the police means that like you're trying to reform the police, and people should just double down and agree with the defund the police thing. They should just keep defending it, even though optically it looks like shit. And Obama's a bad guy for saying we should change from defund the police to reform because I fucking am never wrong.